and welcome back to the latest and greatest edition of My Friend Chuck, the Trailblazer-centric podcast. I am Mike Richmond of the Oregonian Oregon Live. With me, as always, my friend Chuck, Charles Tuggle of Washington, D.C. and the world at large. Chester, what's poppin'?
Oh, not a Mikey, drinking pineapple juice, brushing the dust off my microphone.
It's been a while, hasn't it?
A little bit. The mic's been lonely on the bookshelf, nestled between other electronics and pages and pages filled with words and words of wisdom, which is what we got for you right now, Blazers.
We do. It's audio form, though. It's not a book.
Can't read us.
Are you drinking out of one of those little pineapple juice cans? Like those tiny little guys that are like 8-ounce can?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I knew you were.
Dole.
That was part of me. Dole, yeah, wow. Do you have your pinky up when you're sipping on that?
No. You know what's funny though? I bought these the other day to make some tequila drinks with some orange juice, some of these. I can't remember what else was in there. Making like a splash of Sprite or something.
Sounds like there was a lot of tequila in there if you don't remember.
Yeah. So I had a few of those, and then the rest of the pineapple juice I've just drank. No cocktails,
nice.
just pineapple juice straight because I love pineapple. One of my favorite fruits. Great juice.
It is. It's underrated juice.
Yeah. Good mixture with the orange as well. Try it out, folks. You probably already have. It's great.
All right. Well, that's probably the second biggest news of the day is that Charles loves pineapple juice. The biggest news in Blazer World today is that Allen Crabbe is finally headed back to Brooklyn, where I guess he was supposed to be all along.
It was written.
It was written literally 1 year ago today. 1 year ago today, the Blazers matched Allen Crabbe's 4-year, $75 million offer sheet from the Brooklyn Nets. Fast forward 365 days to the present day, July 25th, 2017, and Allen Crabbe traded to the Nets for what amounts to salary relief. We'll get into the details later, but give me your reactions. What do you think of this trade, Charles?
365 days exactly. That is, wow, that is providential.
Well, there's a league rule that says that the Blazers and Nets could not trade Crabbe to one another until exactly a year passed, which makes me think this trade had been agreed to for a couple months
since February.
Exactly. Since like Christmas Day.
Initial thoughts are not too worried about it really. The cap relief is nice. I've talked over and over again on how bad of a contract that is. I don't feel bad about him leaving. Obviously, maybe there's some implications to be made about what's to come with the Blazers as a result of this move. But looking at the move in and of itself, good move for the Blazers, I would say. Fans might feel a little hard done by. But that contract is not good, and it's not going to look any better, I don't think, because I really don't think Allen Crabbe gets much, much better as a player, as harsh as that might sound.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Blazers are worse on the court, though. Trading Allen Crabbe for not...
Immediately, oh yeah.
He played 28.5 minutes a game last year, 29 minutes a game last year. I mean, they without another player coming in, because they got Andrew Nicholson in the trade, but they're going to be waived. So basically, this was a salary dump, and they found a partner willing to take him without taking a pick, which was a priority of the Blazers. They did not want to, leading up to the draft. It was reported initially by Sean Devney of Sporting News that the Blazers were looking to trade a pick. I reported that sort of the Blazers were looking to dump salary, but they did not want to give up assets to get rid of that salary. They did not want to give up first-round picks. That's too valuable to them going forward. So they found a partner that would take Crabbe's money without attaching a pick to it. So I think that's a victory for them. But you get back Nicholson, who they're going to waive. And this is wild. They're going to trade Andrew Nicholson, or they're going to pay Andrew Nicholson after stretching his salary $2.8 million a year for 7 seasons of dead money. So that's pretty wild. That tells you how badly they wanted to get rid of Crabbe. They basically they'll pay someone, twice as much as a veteran's minimum to not be on the team for 7 seasons.
Yeah, you got to think it was easy for the Blazers to let him go. That's nice.
Andrew Nicholson's about to be
Nicholson.
He's about to be the Blazers' longest tenured player in 2026.
On that Darius Miles contract.
Exactly. He's not Darius Miles money. Not as sweet as Darius Miles' money. So I do think the Blazers get worse with the trade on the floor, but I think from a management standpoint, it takes their their tax bill, from about $48 million down to about $5 or $6 million. So, I mean, they're saving $40 million in luxury taxes. So if you're running the team, if you're Paul Allen, it's just more prudent to be that cheap. And if even with Crabbe, the Blazers, it's not like the Blazers take a huge step back. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like they have a hole now.
You're right. That's going to need to be filled by someone, and someone with shooting, which is absolutely Crabbe's best asset. 44% from the field. From 3-point land last year. Someone's gonna have to step up to make some of those shots. Need that in the offense, but in the long term, I don't think it hurts much because that's Crabbe's pretty much only I think great asset as a player. Not to undermine that, because he is an excellent shooter, one of the best in the league according to the raw metric there.
Yeah, I think. Let me look this up. I wrote this in March. The Blazers were. Let's see. They were 13-6 when Crabbe shot at least 10 times a game, and they were 14-29 in his other 43 games. So there were, more than half the season he just wasn't aggressive. They just needed him to be more aggressive, and he just never turned it up. They never found a way for him to crank that dial past 4 or 5, which is, I mean, he's an even keel dude off the court, and he kind of plays like it on the court. He just they needed him to shoot. They needed him to be a gunner. They needed him to have some bad games where he was a gunner, and he's not wired that way, and I don't know that he will be.
I was looking at the game logs from his season this year, and in about half of the games he played in, he attempted 3 or fewer 3-point shots. For a guy who's shooting 44% and presumably has the green light.
The super green light. The Blazers were trying to get him to shoot.
And has the role, like the space is there if you want to talk about a sort of a hierarchy of offensive weapons. And I just wasn't aggressive enough, like you just said. And I'm not really sad to see him leave, but I have nothing bad to say about him. It seems like a good guy. Never heard any waves about him as a fan. I didn't hear any nonsense. It was professional as far as I'm concerned, but a limited player in that contract really hurts with how things shook out with the discrepancy between the salary cap and the projected salary cap.
Yeah, I mean, it's not his fault that someone paid him $75 million.
Oh, no, great for him. And I wish him the best. He's going to get lots of minutes, yeah?
Yeah, I think he'll be better for the Nets. I think they're
building a shooting team, right?
Yeah. I think he could end up playing some small forward next to D'Angelo Russell and Jeremy Lin.
Interesting.
I mean, I don't think the Nets are going to be very good, but I think he'll probably be better for them than he was in Portland.
Yeah, and then we don't have to worry about it, and we'll see what's to come with the Trailblazers roster.
Yeah, so this leaves the Trailblazers now with 13 guaranteed contracts and Pat Connaughton. Pat Connaughton, they pushed back the decision for his contract to guarantee till the end of August, which gives the Blazers some flexibility. I think Allen Crabbe leaving probably bodes well for Connaughton unless there's another trade coming down the pipeline, and then that might mean that Pat either gets included in the trade or gets waived in the end. But I think it does clear the decks for a possibility that they just keep Connaughton and roll with a 14 guys with an empty roster spot just because they're so expensive, and that it makes it easier mid-season to dip under the tax line because they'll probably be a tax team in the following season. Because I guess the big deal, I think the sort of, if you're looking at what this trade means for the future, I think everyone wants to say, oh, is there another trade coming, blah, 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 and we'll get to both of our thoughts on that here in a second. But But I think what the big deal is that next summer Yusuf Nurkic is going to be a restricted free agent. If the Blazers want to pay him to be part of the future, having a massive tax bill and then having to pay Nurk was going to be a mess. And now they can pay Nurk, and they could conceivably trade their way under the tax line this year and then pay Nurk and be a tax team the following season without the penalties. So it does gives them flexibility for 2018. I know flexibility is kind of a buzzword for people that listen to Neil Olshey talk all the time, but that's actually what this is. I don't mean that as lip service to the guy in charge here. It does give them some more flexibility or more breathing room, whatever you want to call it, for for 2018, because you got to assume that they plan on paying Nurk, right? Like,
yep. The hope here is obviously that they're all in for Nurkic, if he's healthy this season, of course, and performs like he showed in those 20 or so games at the end of last season.
Side note on the Nurkic front, Mason Plumlee still unemployed.
Mason Plumlee, I didn't even know he was released or waived.
No,
from the
well,
Nuggets?
he's just a They tendered him a qualifying offer, so he's just a restricted free agent, and he's chilling. Cold chilling. So
okay. Well,
it's
it's an team.
Yeah, right.
That's all I'm worried about.
An interesting case where I think Plumdog might end up taking just take the qualifying offer and dip back in 2018 and see if he can get paid, because I can't, the way the market is, it's pretty much all but dried up. There's no one else to pay him. So looks like Plumdog is going to either go back for some low money long-term security, some like in Denver, or take that 1-year qualifying offer for not much of a raise and try to get paid in 2018. But he's going to be a backup, so it makes it harder.
Yeah.
So, Bummer for old Plumdog.
Yeah. Stay patient, Plum.
So we haven't done this podcast in forever, and for new listeners, I probably should have done this before we got into the 12 minutes into the podcast. But hey, that's how these things work sometimes. Chuck is just a good friend of mine, a longtime Blazer fan. Me and him lived in Portland together for 5 or 6 years, and we would have these conversations by phone about the Blazers, the future, the NBA, yada yada yada. And we decided, instead of having these via iPhone, we would just start recording them and make a podcast out of it. So this is what it is. My friend Chuck, hence the name.
Howdy.
So welcome. Everyone's my friend Chuck. Every my friend Chuck is someone's first my friend Chuck. So welcome. If this is your first episode, happy to have you guys. Charles, we did not talk post Summer League. Obviously, this was not the best Summer League for rookie Zach Collins, who barely made it through 2.5 games before getting injured. I don't know if you can substantially say anything about him other than that he looked like a 19-year-old. But the other man coming out of Vegas, Caleb Swanigan. Do you have, Caleb Biggie fever? The Biggie bug?
I'm excited for Biggie. I only watched a handful of Summer League minutes, and I recounted on a previous podcast, or post the last podcast, I suppose, that I've only watched probably 5, 6, 7 games of Biggie's at Purdue. But I like his energy. His production was great in the Summer League. That either means something or it means nothing, but he seems like he plays hard, and he seems like he has some versatility. I've watched a few highlights of him snatching a rebound and putting the ball on the floor, at least for a dribble or so, looking up. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I didn't expect to see that.
Yeah, even in Summer League,
The rebounding and the shooting touch didn't really surprise me, because he's got carte blanche to just kind of do what he does. But the grabbing rebounds and dribbling and looking comfortable, he wasn't breaking defenses down at full speed in the open court, but to grab it and go, kind of like Plumlee did for the Blazers. And I know this is kind of a lofty comparison, and I do not mean to compare them at all, but kind of like Draymond Green does, a guy who can rebound and push it. I think that surprised me. That was a skill that I didn't realize he had. And he was a good passer, a better passer than I thought he would be.
Yeah, I think it indicates a bit of intelligence to his game as well.
Definitely.
Knowing that maybe he's grabbed the ball and he can make numbers really quick. He can make a quick dribble, depending on his positioning when he grabs the board. So that's kind of nice. And I'm excited about him. I mean, you got to think he gets some good minutes, especially considering the sort of just round robin format that's going to be the front court for the Blazers this year. There's so many players. You got to think early. People are getting lots of minutes. Everyone.
I think at least in the October, November, first week of December, I think Biggie gets some burn to see if he can play, because even at the end of last year, it was. Well, let's say when Nurk was healthy, it was Nurk and Noah and Aminu, and then that third big was sometimes Myers Leonard. It was Ed Davis before he got hurt, and then nobody.
Yeah, go small.
Yeah, then it was play Al-Farouq Aminu at center, play Noah Vonleh at backup 5. He would play power forward, and then his second shift he would play backup center. So I think there's time to be had. It's just whether Biggie can get. I think he could probably earn time in front of Myers, because Myers is he's going to have to earn his way back into playing time, because I don't see him and I didn't see him and the coaching staff necessarily seeing eye to eye in terms of how much opportunity he felt he deserved and how much opportunity they were willing to give him. He was the guy on the shortest leash, and plenty of Blazer fans think that's with good reason. But if Biggie can play his way ahead of Ed, and Ed was not nearly as good in 2016-17 as he was in 2015-16. So if he's not fully back from that shoulder injury, which I've reported that he's back doing on-court work and he's playing. But
the thing with Easy Ed is interesting because it's premature, but it seems like some of Ed's best attributes is sort of hustle and grime around the boards, willingness to do that sort of dirty stuff. Swanigan has as well. But Swanigan also maybe has a bit more skill potentially than Ed Davis. So, and I love Ed Davis. Longtime listeners of the pod will know that for sure. I've always been a big fan of Easy Ed.
Friend of the podcast.
Yeah, definitely. But Swanigan, I could easily see taking those minutes.
Right, he
regardless
seems to be
of Ed Davis's health, even if
he seems to be the Ed Davis mold with more skills. It's just whether he's ready to play against NBA athletes, NBA speed.
Of course. I've seen it with Ed Davis. I haven't seen it with Swanigan yet in real NBA games. So
totally. But I do think you're right. Is that if you're looking for sort of the hustle and grit skill set, that's exactly what Caleb brings. It's exactly what Biggie has, sort of in his arsenal. That's who he is.
Yeah, excited about him, and again, can't say anything about Zach Collins, really.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, who knows? I'm not like I know Blazer fans. I don't know if all Blazer fans, but many Blazer fans at least who were tweeting at me, they were really down on Collins after 2 games. And look, he looked like he got pushed around. He looked like a 19-year-old. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, more basketball we played, and we'll figure out his game.
So yeah, maybe he's not ready to contribute. Maybe he is. I think the Blazers coaching staff was really impressed or excited about how much sort of defensive intelligence he showed in those games. But Summer League is a weird place to sort of test that out, because people aren't running real NBA sets. People aren't, exploiting you and your weaknesses the way they will. And when the games actually start, when they say he can't do this, let's make sure he does it 15 times tonight, that type of thing.
Yeah. I feel like if I was watching Summer League closely, and I don't really, but I would be looking for kind of how guys are feeling in the game, how they're moving, predicting things, not so much of maybe their offensive performance or turnovers and whatnot. I feel like that stuff happens. We've seen it happen with star-type players and also just regular old folks who don't make an impact in the league.
Totally. So I mean, there's
it's kind of a crapshoot.
Yeah, no, there's the Josh Selby caveat. The year Damian Lillard's rookie year, he was co-MVP of Summer League with Josh Selby, and Selby was incredible. I mean, he was just balling on people, 25 points a game in Vegas. Damian Lillard was the unanimous rookie of the year, and Josh Selby did not make it into the end of his second season in the NBA. So.
Yeah, I saw Bellinelli playing a Summer League game and thought he was like the truth. like the next Manu Ginobili. The next Ray Allen. But that didn't turn out. I love Bellinelli's game, actually, but I thought he was going to be way, way better.
Italian Ray Allen.
That was in that Eurozone, though. That phase, I feel like, where maybe some of us were artificially inflating or hyping some of the Euros games.
That's when I really loved Gordon Gierasek. I really did like Gordon Gierasek. That's not a joke. That's a player that I really thought was going to be good. So I guess we can move on to some. Those are sort of the big 2 newsy Blazer things. We can move on to some listener questions, and we'll kind of address the larger NBA topics at hand via these beautiful questions. But my man Thomas Cogswell, at Thomas Cogswell on Twitter, holler at him. He's probably got more followers than you, Charles. No, he doesn't.
Maybe. I'm still on the come up.
Thomas Cogswell asks, the Crabbe trade seems like a precursor to another move. Who do you think Olshey is targeting? Carmelo Anthony? Another wing?
I would say definitely not to the former.
No! No,
to
come on.
the latter, potentially. Like we mentioned earlier, there is a space vacant with Crabbe's absence now. Whether that's a larger, bigger sort of stretch 4 type wing or something more traditional in Crabbe's mold, 3-and-D type player, we don't know.
They need a shooter, though. I mean,
absolutely, they need shooting.
Unless it's Jake Layman, it seems like they need another shooter. It seems like that's the obvious get, is another shooter. It's just like, is that guy available on the market? Kevin Pelton suggested potentially bringing back Gerald Henderson, which I think is an interesting one. He's not a shooter, but he was pretty good in his time here.
Spent a year in Philadelphia, 2 years in Philadelphia. Is that where he's been?
Yeah, 1 year, I think, in Philly.
1 year. Veteran Philly deal. How interesting. That's become quite vogue with the Sixers, isn't it? As they're trusting the process.
Well, that's also his hometown, so I think it's a chance for him to go home. Yeah.
Oh, Philly's that makes even more sense then.
Yeah. So, but I don't know if I love that idea, but that is a possibility of like a veteran.
Yeah, he's not a good 3-point shooter though.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
No.
Am I Yeah. Yeah. No, I don't want him back. No disrespect to Gerald Henderson. Guy can jump out the gym, still kind of, but I don't recall him being a good 3-point shooter. Moves the ball well and all, but
yeah, to me, he's not who you want, in my humble opinion.
I could see that being an economical sort of decision, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's
if they felt like they really needed some veteran sort of impact. But that would seem low reward on that one. Next.
Next. Well, you could have guys who are, I think off the top of my head, who are still unrestricted. Mike Dunleavy, Matt Barnes.
Mike Dunleavy returning home.
Exactly. Gerald Green. I think Gerald Green is a free agent.
Ooh. I like the sound of that, actually.
He's a gunner. He's a gunner. I don't know that Gerald Green could. Yeah, he can't contribute consistently. I don't know if he fits the mold. But yeah, there's a name. There's a name for you.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah. No. To the former request though, no way Melo can come to the Blazers. He has no interest. Surely he has no interest in the Blazers. As fun as it would be to imagine him playing with the squad, not really even worth addressing. Seems he's destined for Houston. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think he's going to come here. Melo to PDX. I think that might not last too long. But I have questions sort of along those lines. There's no way. First of all, let me just say that I have heard in the sort of brief reporting I've done on this that less than zero chance that happens. It's just not a likelihood. But Charles, I guess what I want to ask is, when you see Dame and CJ very openly sort of on Twitter or even in the media talking about recruiting guys to Portland, what's your reaction to that? Do you get excited to see the Stars do that? Do you bristle and say, "Ugh, like that's collusion"? Or like, sort of, what's your reaction?
Yeah, the whole collusion notion is just silly.
Yeah,
that's obviously not like a thing, and I don't even know how the NBA acts upon that. So I don't think of it like that at all. I don't make much of it, I guess. I don't even read too much into it as, the star sort of players are desperate for more veteran help or more impact players. I just see it kind of as good fun. Just with the way that players and thus their brands are using their social media platforms to just sort of get out there. It just seems sort of all part of the reality of being an NBA professional athlete in this day and age. So I don't make much into it. I guess it's fun for me, but I don't see it and get excited necessarily. At least in terms of it being a realistic prospect because they're doing it.
Right. It is interesting, though, how vocal they are about, hey, we want Paul George, and hey, CJ tweeting out Photoshop pictures of various NBA All-Stars wearing Blazer jerseys. I do think it's curious because I don't think you see that too often, sort of the open campaigning. Although I do think sort of the behind the scenes, like texting each other, hey, you know, we want you here. We'd be really good with you here. I think that kind of thing happens all the time.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, sometimes it almost seems playful on the players' behalf, you know?
Yeah, totally.
You know, obviously, like a tweet with a photoshopped photo cannot be considered a sincere sort of moment of endearment for Carmelo Anthony. If you're actually talking about using that to recruit him, what would that matter? Surely a phone call would be better. You know, so that's the playful aspect I see it. Unless he looks at it and sees that it has, 100,000 retweets and that makes him hyped or something. But I don't know. Yeah. I don't make much noise about it.
It's better for Paul George, millennial Paul George, than whatever the generation right before millennials are that Melo occupies.
I guess the Paul George case is slightly different because that seemed to have, at least more theoretically, a greater probability of happening. Or likely.
Also, Paul George is a lot better than Carmelo Anthony.
Yeah, that one just sort of makes sense in this crazy sort of risky NBA landscape we're in now. Players positioning for outs out of their contracts and trying to get trades to certain places. We're seeing that play out with Kyrie Irving, and we can talk about if we'd like. Yeah, crazy stuff. But that one seemed more realistic than Melo, who just he wants a championship. That he's been loyal to New York almost to a fault in recent years when they've been, frankly speaking, just a mess of a franchise.
Yeah, they're a disaster, but he's making like $25 million.
Yeah, he's making his money. That's his city.
He disasters in a lot of ways.
Yeah, he's happy to be the guy there, but now he clearly wants a championship, and I even don't think a hypothetical hype team of CJ, Dame, and Melo is a championship team.
Do you think they're a top 3 team in the West, like CJ intimated?
I don't even know that.
I would say maybe.
Yeah, I would say maybe. Maybe with all things going well, maybe.
Right.
Even the West is going to be crazy. We don't know even what's yet to come.
And even then, with Melo, if Nurk misses significant time, the Blazers are bad again. I mean, it's just their margin for error is very small.
Who knows? Dame goes down. He does different things for the Blazers offense than CJ does.
Right, because he can pass and score the rim better than CJ. He's just not as efficient in the other parts of the court. Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. There would be a lot of question marks, and Melo wouldn't necessarily be the Band-Aid that would cover up all their issues.
That would be a fun team, though. Just like really quick, that would be a really. I mean, I still think Melo's an elite offensive player.
Oh yeah,
and if you could convince him to play the 4, which I guess he doesn't really like to do, but he's always seemed to be supremely efficient when he does play it, then that would be kind of an interesting, fun team to watch. But I wouldn't be, all in on a championship.
No,
there's some other great squads out there right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's the bar for winning an NBA title is unreasonably high, I would say. It's unreasonably high at this current time. But you mentioned a certain Mr. Kyrie Irving in Cleveland, and my man Logan Giles of at Logan Giles on Twitter, thanks Logan, asks, how filthy, and I think you should just answer this with a number, how filthy would a Dame, Kyrie, CJ, Swanigan, Nurk lineup be?
Hold on. Dame, CJ, Kyrie,
Swanigan, Nurk.
That'd be a 50.
No, I would say that'd be like a 420-69.
That would be filthy. I could never see that working.
How on earth? How would they how everyone says this about every team? So I know it's kind of corny, but would they play with 2 basketballs?
They would need 3. They would need 3. 2.5.
Seriously,
2.5
I just cannot imagine playing people who like dribbling as much as CJ McCollum and Kyrie Irving together at the same time.
Yeah, I love all those players, though. I mean, just in a vacuum, like in a pickup game, I for sure take that squad.
Oh my god! On NBA 2K18, fire that up.
Yeah, in an 82 game NBA season, when you're trying to play 20 playoff games, no, not going to work.
Yeah, I mean, Listen, the Blazers, one of their big issues is that they play two guys who are small and can't really switch freely in a league where everyone kind of wants to be 6'6" to 6'8" and switch freely so you can guard every position on the court. Adding another small guard to that group would make them hilariously bad on defense. But they would be really, I mean, they could be, other than the sort of ball hugginess of Kyrie and CJ to some extent, and Dame. Don't get it twisted. I do think they could really get buckets. Goodness gracious.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, those are some great individual scoring guards. Really some of the top ones in the league. If you want to sort of categorize them like that. But defensively, you're exactly right there.
Can you make any sense of Kyrie Irving wanting out of Cleveland?
Yes, I can.
Make sense of it for me then. Talk to me.
Okay, I'm Kyrie Irving.
Hello, Kyrie. The Earth is round. Idiot.
I'm here in Washington, D.C. on Flat Earth.
Oh, okay.
Flat Earth, D.C. I've been the leading scorer, top man, leader of this kind of bad Cavaliers team for a few years, and then the prodigal son returns. LeBron James, one of the greatest players of all time. LeBron, massive influence, obviously, in Cleveland. Such a huge shadow he sort of cast over the whole state, really.
I mean, there's literally a giant photo of him that covers up like 15 stories that is facing the front of the arena. So yeah, he has a figurative and literal shadow. I understand.
and then you put together a team and you do the ultimate. You win an NBA championship. You have a terrific playoffs and finals performance. You hit one of the most iconic shots in NBA history.
Perhaps the most iconic shot of the last 10 years. Over
another player who's going to go down as one of the greatest ever, I think. Steph, really, depending on how this sort of dynasty in Golden State shapes up in the next 3 to 5 years.
He's already one of the best. He's already the best shooter, or one of the best shooters of all time.
Transcendent player.
Right, and going forward, his legacy can only, it'll be defined further.
And then maybe, you see some dysfunction within the Cavs organization. Maybe you've already seen that dysfunction within the Cavs organization.
Good God.
Maybe I also get a whiff that LeBron is eyeing the exit door in 2018. And I think, you know what? Why don't I try to do this on my own? Why don't I try to find my own team? I want to be the guy. I want the ball in my hands all of the time. Try a new project, really. That's how I make sense of it if I'm Kyrie Irving. That's the narrative.
I like your reasoning.
Is that not so bad? I can think of a ton of counterpoints right now. The biggest one being named LeBron James, but...
Yeah, the biggest one I think might be my dude, Larry O'Brien. My main man, Larry. Because if you play with LeBron, there's like an 80% chance that you play in the final game of the NBA season. And that final game is going to be in the championship. And if you've got LeBron, you've got a puncher's chance to win the title every single year.
It's true.
And, there is a certain level of sacrifice that should be assumed when you're trying to win a championship, that you do have to make some sacrifices. But yeah, I think my read on it is that maybe Kyrie knows that the writing is on the wall and this Cleveland experiment is ending early, and why not get out while get out while the getting's good. Yeah. Don't be the last one left to turn the light out. Don't be Kevin Love, because Kevin Love is going to be the dude turning the light out.
Yeah, and just depending on where he ends up, if he does get traded this summer, the change of project could be rated, more or less harshly. If he ends up in a contender type team, San Antonio, perhaps, which is one of the 4 destinations he had apparently offered to the Cavs. He's competing for championships there probably also. So it's not like, the guy just wanted to be the man and he wanted to take 1,000 shots. If he goes to some bad team, I don't know. Somehow ends up in New York,
Phoenix. If he ends up in Phoenix or with the Knicks, then
and drops like 32 points a game or something next season, and they win 38 games.
Yeah, I thought Zach Lowe made a really interesting point. Like, you look sort of around the league at who are Kyrie's peers, and I would say that there's kind of that second tier of very good point guards in the league. I don't think he's Steph, CP, or Russell Westbrook, but I think he's the next tier of point guards. So like he wants the type of control Damian Lillard enjoys in Portland, where he's the unquestioned face of the franchise and yada yada yada. Mm-hmm. Well, Dame's never played in a game 6 of the second round of the NBA playoffs. He's played in a couple game 5s. He's never made it quite to game 6 of the NBA playoffs. John Wall, for all his notoriety and getting darn close to an Eastern Conference Finals and being an all NBA performer and all that comes with it, does not have a signature shoe like Kyrie Irving, and has openly complained during last year about not having a signature shoe. So here are the sacrifices you make. You either win a little bit less or you gain less notoriety. So there are, it is the sword. It can poke you from many angles, my friend.
The grass is always greener on the other side.
Until it isn't. Exactly.
All of us can recognize that. Yeah.
But getting back to my man Logan Giles' point, that would be the what did he ask? Sorry, what's the filthy? It would be the filthiest.
It would be hella filthy.
It would be. It would be nice. You'd think Logan Giles is from Seattle if he uses the word filthy. That's like a very Northwest word.
Yeah, probably Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, he reps Northeast Portland.
Yeah, I mean Blazers, come on.
Shout out Logan. What is, I believe it's Gift to Gab has the line, "In the Bay I'm hella nice and I'm filthy in Seattle." That's
That's all the West Coast slang you need right there, folks.
Exactly. All right, we're going to move on to a couple more questions.
Let's get them.
Brent Kersley asks, who is Charles? And I think we answered that. But his second question he asks is, who's the next Blazer to go? Charles, who's the next guy out the door?
Pat Connaughton.
Oh, damn.
Doesn't that seem logical? I mean, no hate.
Yeah,
no hate on Pat, but he seems expendable. If not him, then I guess I would say Mo Harkless, because I feel like his name has been thrown around a little bit in some of these multi-team trade rumors.
Well, and he also is the best player on the most reasonable contract that they can trade.
Yeah, that would break my heart. Let's not dwell on that. I love Mo. That's my main man.
Yeah, no, I think Pat is the right guess for who's the next to go. I know the Blazers have at least explored the possibility of trading Myers Leonard, but there's no rush to do that before the season starts necessarily. There's no rush to now that they've got rid of Crabbe and they've gotten out of a huge financial commitment they made to AC, it lowers the burden to make a move. Do they have a hole on the roster for a wing? Absolutely. And unless you think that's Jake Layman or Pat Connaughton who could fill that role, which I am not under the impression that either of those guys is ready, then they probably do need to sign someone on the cheap to fill that role. But I don't think there's a rush at this stage to make more moves, because I think they still want to be decently competitive, and they'll probably still be, assuming Nurk is healthy for 70 games, decently competitive.
Yeah, I completely agree. There's not much of a rush to ship out Myers Leonard right now, unless some other exciting, maybe not exciting, but potentially beneficial trade for the Blazers occurs.
Yeah, and I think this trade with Crabbe, I should say this in case I haven't, I should make it clear. I think this trade for Crabbe was specifically to shed salary and get closer toward the tax line, and not setting something up to take on Ryan Anderson and Eric Gordon and yada yada yada. This was very specific. Prudence. Right. This was very specifically to get cheaper in the near and long term, and then it allows them, because they're cheaper, to make other decisions going forward.
Yeah.
Whereas if they were still incredibly expensive and paying $50 million in taxes, then making trades and wheeling and dealing just becomes a little more dicey.
Yeah, there's the strategic tactical aspect of it, right? In addition to just saving a lot of money. Potentially.
Yeah.
Surely.
Here's a quick one. This is back to Logan Giles. He asks, will Swanigan have a signature shoe with a major brand before Lonzo Ball does?
With a major brand? No, because you got to think at very, very shortly here, Lonzo Ball does get a major shoe deal. And it's probably a really good deal, but probably not necessarily than the one that LeVar could have negotiated for him 2 months ago.
Also, on sort of in the basics of like signature shoe land, tall people don't get shoes. I don't know how to say that any other way. Like Kristaps Porzingis doesn't have a signature shoe, right?
That's interesting. Who's the right now tallest player with a signature shoe? KD.
Yeah, and he's a buck guard basically, right?
Yeah, he's like damn near 7 foot, if not like, 7 feet legit. But he plays like a guard. Absolutely.
Like Dwight was a big with a signature shoe. That was it. That's the one.
I can't even remember what he was on. Adidas, wasn't he?
He was on Adidas.
Is he still on Adidas? I don't even know.
I think he signed with Peak. I think he got dropped by Adidas and signed with Peak.
He would be on a whack brand like that.
Mm-hmm. There's nothing that encapsulates his career arc better than having a signature shoe with Adidas, getting dropped, or dropping Adidas and signing with some whack brand.
Yeah, I just hope Swanigan wears Nike. Might fit well with the new Nike uniforms, brand coherency.
Off the top of my head, I'm gonna say he wore Nikes in Summer League, but I'm not your guy to ask that.
I have no idea.
That's Casey Holdall. That's the Seahold beat, man. That ain't.
Holler at you, Casey.
Yeah, he's got your shoe game on lock. Here's a good one. This is a question for me, but I will allow you to chime in with your opinion here. Billy Lynn at BillySCLynn on Twitter asks, Mike, what's your top 5 favorite with a U NBA city to travel to, and which Blazers players do you enjoy interviewing or talking to most? That's 2 questions in one. We'll take the first one first. Here are my top 5 NBA cities to visit: New Orleans, Los Angeles, and New Orleans. No, New Orleans is America's best city. It's like it's just a crazy, crazy place. Incredible food, incredible music, incredible just sort of like Sin City party ridiculousness. The architecture is amazing. The culture is like no other place in America. It's kind of like visiting the Caribbean or Europe without leaving. It's kind of hard to get to from Portland, but New Orleans is definitely number 1. Los Angeles, I love to visit. Wonderful, wonderful city to visit. How could you not enjoy it just on a short-term basis? The weather is fantastic. You could do anything you want there. Other NBA cities that are probably up there, the Bay Area I really like. I like Oakland even when you're in Oakland, and usually a lot of times I'll stay in San Francisco for the Warriors games. Those are and both LA and Oakland are really easy to get to, so that's high on the list. New York is awesome. Boston is a cool city, and Chicago. You kind of getting my drift. I like these big major American cities, but New Orleans and LA are my top 2 by far, Billy. You've been to almost every city that I just listed.
Great cities.
You're a New Orleans guy, aren't you?
I love New Orleans. Everyone should go visit New Orleans. Great ambiance. You expressed it perfectly. If you haven't, make it there sometime.
Yeah,
highly recommend it. Beautiful city.
Exactly. It's just unique. It's unique in a way that no other American city can top. And which Blazers do I enjoy interviewing most? It's Ed Davis has got to be number 1 for a variety of reasons. He's just a cool guy, and he's a no BS guy. Like when Ed tells you something, he's telling you the truth. Sometimes he says things that he really should not say. Like when he was talking about how the Blazers really wanted to play the Clippers before that one playoff series, it was just like, come on now, shh. It was like, that's, it was great for me, perfect for my job, awesome for my job, but it's like when you're looking at it from like sort of a step back standpoint, it's like, wow, he shouldn't have said that, huh? And that same year when they won 44 games, oh yeah, here's a good Ed Davis story. The year they won 44 games and beat the Clippers in the playoffs. I'm writing a story on sort of when the Blazers knew they were going to be good, and I'm asking all of them, and Ed is super funny because he's like, I'll try to tone it down because he swears occasionally, but he says something like, I didn't really believe until the All-Star break, and he was like, when did you believe? I was like, I don't even know if I believe right now. I was like, I don't even know if I believe you guys are good right now, and he's like laughing, and I was like, honestly though, where did you think you would be today? And he's in the locker room, walking to the showers, he yells across the locker room, he goes, He says, "Shoot, I thought I'd be planning my vacation right now."
I like that. That's candid. That's funny.
Yeah, honest as can be. And he's just a good dude. Like if you text him something, he'll most likely get back to you quickly and give you a straight opinion. He's not gonna sugarcoat things. It was a bummer when he got hurt last year because he was a great quote and great someone to talk to sort of get the pulse of the team. And I gotta say, Dame is just incredible. He's as far as stars go. He sometimes is bizarrely positive to a place where I just cannot go. I'm like, but you guys are really bad right now. You have to understand. And Dame, he is a strong-willed and strong believer as it gets, and he can stay positive and be authentically positive and believe in himself and the team against all odds. And that can get a little bit frustrating, but it's not BS. He truly means it in a way that is authentic and
it's good leadership, Dan.
Yeah, and the player that you see do sort of the TV interviews is the same dude who just like shoots the breeze with you on the sidelines. He's a good guy. He's as good a star as you can find in the league in terms of dealing with the media. So Dame and Dame, but Ed head and shoulders above everyone else because that's my guy. Yeah, I think that's it. I think we answered all the questions in the whole world. And I think we did a pretty comprehensive job explaining the Kyrie, Carmelo, and Allen Crabbe news of the day. I'm proud of us, Charles.
You did great. That
sound you're hearing is me tooting my own horn.
Oh yeah, get yourself pineapple juice, Mike. You deserve it.
Okay, on the pineapple juice front, this is a good way to close it. I went to Bend, Oregon on vacation, and I went to this place where they did these like weird. It was like a bar deal where they got a beer and a shot for $6 or something like that. I know you can't believe that in DC, but there are places. Yeah, right. You would almost pay the plane ticket to do that. And it was like the shot was like in a bubble glass, and it was like liquor on the bottom or liquor on the top, and then the bottom was like the chaser of your choice. So I was like, do what you want to do. And the guy gave me like tequila and pineapple juice, and it was like bottom shelf warm tequila and warm pineapple juice, and it's like 90 degrees in Bend, and it was horrific. So
really? It was bad.
I mean, it would have been.
I thought you were going to end that story saying it was terrific.
If both items have been cold, I would have been all in, and I would have been like, "Oh, this is nice."
Man, everything's good when it's cold, when it's hot out.
And it was warm and awful, so I'm kind of off pineapple juice. It's going to have to work its way back into my world.
All right.
Hey, I'm not like you. I didn't drink all my tequila and get stuck with leftover pineapple juice.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Okay. All right. Well, if the Blazers make another trade, Charles and I will be back. Otherwise, we will probably take a little bit of time off because both of us have to do some August off-season-y type things.
Back to the gym, Mike.
Yeah, I got to get back on the grind, get to playing shape, do whatever cliche off-season things, put on 15 pounds of muscle that I need to do before it starts. But we'll probably do some preseason pods coming up. We appreciate you guys listening. We really enjoy doing this. It's been fun.
Thanks for the questions, y'all.
Yeah, thanks to Logan and Billy and Brent. And did I miss one more? And Thomas. I appreciate
Cogswell.
All of you.
I remember.
Filthy. Thanks, Charles.
The pod remembers.
The pod always remembers, and it repays its debts. So yeah, if you're looking for us, we're on iTunes. Just search My Friend Chuck, also Stitcher and SoundCloud and Google Play. Leave us a review if you like what you hear. We appreciate you guys listening. And Charles, I'll talk to you soon, my dude.
Peace.